I'd like to thank everybody for coming. We'll rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Lonnie. I think our record skipped there, but it was a good effort, buddy. All right, we're going to start off. Everybody's in a good mood laughing, so that's good. Thanks for coming. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. I do have two ads. We're going to add B1, Eagle Scout proclamation, and F2 is the images variance revocation. We have to do that under F2. Anything else? Tim, anything else?
I don't have any other additions, no.
Yep.
I have nothing.
Wait, no. Lonnie? No. Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The consent agenda, everything's in the packet, the minutes. Anything to add on that, Tim, at all? Okay. Any questions for the administrator? Okay, entertain.
Move to approve.
Thanks, Dwayne. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Visitors to the council, Eagle Scout proclamation. Why don't you come up to the podium, but we have two Eagle Scouts in the community who completed their project, so we'd like to recognize, we have one here tonight. If you want to just introduce yourself, pull that microphone up.
Sure.
Introduce yourself, and then maybe just tell us the project and...
Sure. My name is Robert Turner. My Eagle Scout project was building two steel lettered signs for the choir and band departments, and we actually just got them hung up a couple days ago. We had a bit of an issue because they were a little too heavy, so we had to do stuff with the wall to mount them, but they look really nice. They say KMHS Band and KMHS Choir, and they hang over the two rehearsal rooms. And they're, I believe, 7 feet long, and they, the letters are raised from the backing, and then they have blue LEDs on the backs of the letters. So, and then they have buttons on the sides which you can turn the lights on and off. And so, basically, I just wanted to do that because ever since the new addition to the school went up, there's a lot of blank spaces and white spots on the walls, and so there was like makeshift posters made, but we wanted to put something more permanent up there. So I think that this is a really nice addition to the school. That was my project.
All right, well, thank you very much, and thanks for your service.
Thank
Hold
you.
that up, Linda's gonna get a picture here for you.
Sure.
so.
Congratulations. It's
Thank you.
quite an accomplishment.
There we go, thank you.
Awesome.
Robert's being pretty modest. Robert's being pretty modest because, I mean, so this is a gentleman who tackled all this. He started his project back in February, was planning on completing it in April. So he's been dealing with a little bit of challenges to get it completed, but he's stuck with scouting. He started as a first grader as a Tiger Scout, worked his way all the way through, but he's not just an Eagle Scout. He's involved in venture scouting, explorer scouts with the local ambulance crew, and with Sea Scouts. So this is a gentleman who scouting has been true and true. He's worked at many points of scout camp for the last 3 years, and I'm really proud that he was able to get this rank and succeed in life. So yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yep, congratulations. Thanks for coming tonight. And you can leave whenever you want. You don't have to stay for the rest of the
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just some advice for everybody: do not put an icebreaker in your mouth and wear it under your mask because your eyes will water like this right now. I know there's a good emotion with the Eagle Scout there, but wow. Kind of was a miscalculation. The mayor's report, just an update on the mental health initiative. Later in our packet, we're going to have the approval of the funds for that. So I've gotten back with everybody. We're getting invoices from some of the organizations. Zumbro Valley Health, the QPR suicide prevention program that they run, that Josh will do for us, that is no charge. It's just part of his job, so we have as many of those as we want at no charge. Fernbrook did agree to do the 75 one-hour consultations. We're going to prepay for those, and then 5 different presentations. We'll worry about what and when later, but they're going to pre-bill for those. NAMI, we got a bill from them, I think $1,500 worth of trainings. We'll be able to pick and choose what we want at a later time, as far as what and when. they're all kind of up in the air a little bit on the what and when part, because most of them they can do in person, but they've tailored to Zoom or online. But we do have, the school is going to not charge us, we have access to the PAC in the forum room anytime we wanna use it, that it's available for free. So we could have some groups of 25 or 50 in the PAC that are really spread out, or 25 in the forum room. So we'll work on the logistics later. Mail's still working on some educational pieces for us, we should have that by 2023. And that's about it right now, so we're working on a few of the other things, but that's where it's at now. We're just waiting for everybody to come in so we can start scheduling for sometime in September. And the first week of October, the 4th, I think, to the 11th, is Mental Illness Awareness Week. So we'll probably have some stuff that would be coinciding with that too, with the school and Mayo and some other folks, so. Any questions, let me know. Public forum, I don't have no cards. F1 Planning Commission, minor subdivision, Plaza 57.
Including your packet, you've got a resolution, for a minor subdivision for a lot split. Basically the Fernbrook property, Mr. Carlson's, property there with the, folks that have purchased the old Chapco property. Typically, this wouldn't have been required for this, but it was, because they're splitting a lot off and creating a new PID. So, the planning commission did review it, and they, didn't have any objections to it, and so we felt this was a good, property to allow for some stormwater mitigation to be properly done in that area as well, which obviously is a concern.
Okay. Any questions on that for?
Is this, there's a typo in the part for Brad Clemens, E-N, not O-N, I don't know if it matters.
We can get that changed, absolutely, no problem.
Just make sure, you know, when we're.
Yep, no worries. We'll make sure all the typos are fixed.
And at the bottom of that
Yes,
page.
I just see that one, so I will make sure all the typos are fixed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can see if he'll sign it.
He probably would, who knows? We'll get that fixed, though.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Thanks, Dwayne, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Lonnie, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The added item, the images variance revocation that we have to remove.
Sure, included in there is some more information. The planning commission also reviewed this. As part of our overall review of variances and CUPs that we're trying to do as much as we can, we started taking a look at, ones that were approved in the last 5 years that were never filed. And this is actually one that was never filed. And so, going forward, the planning commission it's been recommended to us by our planning consultant with the new zoning code to, change the process. And so we're looking at doing that, and the way that process would change is that, when someone is, applying to that, we would change the fee for the filing to include the filing cost, and then staff from City Hall would actually do the filing. At least that's one possibility. That way, at least we know it's being filed, because otherwise we end up having, records that are just not well kept. And so we certainly wanted to try to improve that. Linda tried to make contact with the property owner, and she sent them letters, and we've got those attachments of those amendments there that you could take a look at. But at this time, based on the planning and zoning board's recommendations, they were recommending to basically rescind this.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the revocation.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan, do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dwayne, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Old business, natural gas ordinance first read.
Sure, I've got a memo in your packet for you, talking a little bit about some of the questions that the council members had in the last, meeting. I did talk to, Stewartville, Mr. Schimmel down there is very helpful, of course, and, he indicated that in aggregate, this generates around 100,000, and about 40,000 of that is from the volume charge, not from the base charges. So I think that was the question that you maybe had. So I did include in your packet with that memo also a draft, of an ordinance that could be utilized. There are a number of items that are included in there that would allow, one of the items is, that the city would actually not be participating anymore. The natural gas would be covered by the company itself, so that would actually save the city some money on that side as well, which is not uncommon when you're utilizing these. Other than that, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You know, it's just a matter of if that's the right rate and how comfortable the council is with setting this up. as I've noted before, we would plan on segmenting the revenue out and utilizing it for specific projects as opposed to making it a part of our general fund.
Yeah, I was fine with the rate that we had before. Any questions for Tim on that? So we'll have to bring it back for a second read, right?
Yeah, so what we'll plan on doing, because, there's some question of, in my mind, whether we actually needed to even do an ordinance. You know, we do have the ordinance that was approved originally, however, we never did set a rate. And so the argument could be made that this could be set by resolution, but I think just in the openness and fairness to allow for a public hearing, I think is valuable. And if people have got feedback, we certainly will take it. So I think what we'll plan on doing is the publication. We'll have the notice provided in the newspaper, and we'll have a public hearing. And I think we're planning on that for the 23rd of September, right? I think that's what we're planning on right now.
Okay.
So that'll give us plenty of time, and if people have got comments, we'll certainly be glad to take those as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
You bet.
Okay, H1, planning proposals.
Including your packet also, we've got two items. These are, kind of new business items, but they're not really new. Right now, we have an agreement with Hoyzens and Keugler, which is a firm that does planning services. They've been very helpful to us with the work that we've done on our zone revisions. I think, both Dwayne and Lonnie will be very familiar with Laura and also Brad from that firm. Earlier this year, I had, decided that I wanted to see if there were other options as well. And so I did ask for, proposals, and these were two proposals that were generated, one from South Central Cooperative and one from, Hoyington, to allow for some actual in-person. Part of the problem that we run into is that, we don't necessarily have somebody on the ground, actually in the office, and that was something I really wanted to see with, at least have them in the office one day a week. So if there are meetings, if there are deadlines, if there are timelines that all need to be made, and this is mostly for our larger projects, you can kind of see the scope of work. For smaller things, code enforcement, we've got the police department, they're doing a great job, right, Josh? So we're not necessarily looking at that from these folks, but for some of these subdivisions, especially with our new code, I wanted to make sure that we had, the level of service that we needed. And you can see there that the one proposal would be for 2 days, the other one would be for 1 day a week, and basically during regular business hours. So one proposal is a little bit more expensive aggregate, however, it would be more cost effective, for the number of hours. The other proposal, would work. Right now, my recommendation, is that either one of these would be adequate, but, it seems like with the previous relationship we have with Hoyington, with the subdivisions coming on next year, it might be a better fit. I do think that the South Central has a lot of value, and in terms of it actually would be less expensive. In a year where we weren't having subdivisions coming on, I would say their service might be more appropriate. So I guess to me, I would be comfortable with either one, but it seemed like with the familiarity with projects, Hoyington might have a better proposal. And something else to note is that neither one of these will require any kind of, this proposal will not require a budget increase. So planning and zoning will have adequate funding at the same level they're at this year to meet the needs that they have for this. So I wanted to make sure that it was revenue neutral as well.
Any questions for Tim on that?
On the, Hoyzens and Keugler
Mm-hmm.
proposal, they've got for budgeting purposes, they stated a dollar amount per month, all inclusive. What does all inclusive mean?
Well, my interpretation of that is that, it would include any services that we need to have done in terms of regular work. You can see it's page 120 of your packet, you can see that the unanticipated expense will be required to have pre-approval. So any regular work that would need to be done, zoning compliance, CUP compliance, a lot of these things would be included in that, and that's my interpretation of it. So anything that would come out separately, you can see the rates that they have. So they have a principal, planner, associate, senior projects, and landscape art. Those are all the services that we would typically be utilizing. So.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because the one from the Mankato's firm, they were pretty specific outlining what the all-inclusive included with the mileage and, out-of-pocket costs and things. So as I look at it, it's hard to compare apples to apples.
Sure.
Here.
Yeah. Well, and as I said, to me, the positive to Hoyington is they do have a familiarity with our process.
Yep.
they have a good working relationship with staff. In another year, when we weren't having those coming online, I would probably lean the other direction. That's the honest truth of it. They're both very good people, I mean, they're very good firms. Brad's been great to work with, Laura's a very knowledgeable woman, and, to me, the one positive, I know it was pointed out to me, is that you are getting a certified planner with one. With the other one, you're getting the promise of planning services, which doesn't necessarily saying that you're gonna get somebody who's actually a AICP or something like that.
Can we just ask them for clarification of the all-inclusive?
Absolutely, I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem. No, I mean, we don't have to take any action on this tonight.
Mhm.
I would like to get back to them this fall, obviously for next year, but, we could certainly get more definitions on that if you'd like.
I agree with you. I would like to keep Hoisington, just from their background with us,
Mhm.
rather than breaking somebody else in.
Mhm.
But if they could clarify some of the things.
Sure.
You know, just like Dwayne said, so we're looking at it apples to apples.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm good with that. Mel,
Yeah,
anything?
I'll follow up with them.
All right, thank you very much. Administrators report.
All right. Get to it. There's a lot of items I wanted to highlight in there, and then kind of the big discussion that, we wanted to have tonight too would be, talking a little bit about the proposals that we viewed last time. So you could see that the legislature did meet. Right now, I'm not expecting anything else out of legislature this year. No, I don't expect a bonding bill, I don't expect it. The governor will call him into session so that he can extend his emergency powers, and other than that, with elections coming, I don't expect him to do anything else. You've got the budgets in your packet. We did have the Park and Rec meeting, which, got some information in there. One of the other items that was brought to my attention, and it's kind of funny because I was thinking about it myself, was the, organized hauling and recycling services. And it's very possible, you know, council members who have been on the council for a long time have probably already discussed this in the past. I know that I talked about it, at, you know, previous city that I worked at, and, you know, a resident brought to my attention, you know, why do we have all these trucks? You know, they live on a new street. They said, I've got 5 trucks that go through and collect garbage and recycling. And why, you know, brand new street, I just paid for, you know, this house. Why, my road's gonna get broken up, I've got children, you know, biking around and playing and things. And I said, you know, I'm not sure. So, that's why I brought it to tonight's meeting. You know, there are positives to it. There may be some pushback in the public as well. That's usually the biggest negative, is that folks feel like they're maybe not getting as much choice. And that certainly is a possible concern. From the city's perspective, I know talking with our public works director, you know, we would see less impact to our roads. And that is something that we have to take a look at. But, I just wanted to bring it up, and obviously if the council is not interested in taking a look at it, that's perfectly fine with me. But I wanted it to be something we were able to discuss a little bit.
And if you want some more info, contact Verbrota, they've been doing it for like 7 years now.
Sure, many cities do the unified hauling, but that's not unusual, but.
They've got some good input.
Okay. Any thoughts from anyone on the council here?
My biggest concern is, again, if we put up a competitive bid, we have no say in who's doing it. If a large, I won't use names, large national hauler got the contract and we couldn't use the local person, you'd have some pushback on that.
Mhm. Well, I mean, one thing to consider is the fact that the city does have the ability to select the vendor they wanna use. Even if there is a cost difference and the cost is higher, you can make an economic argument. I know that we did that in Blue Earth, and we did a recycle hauling, Waste Management came in. I'm not gonna dance around the names. The Waste Mafia, whatever you wanna call it. You know, it's a big company, it tends to underbid. But they had a lower bid than the local recycler, but the council went with the local recycler anyways, because they had people who lived in town who worked for them, and they felt like it would be Blue Earth was their biggest customer, which meant that company's service level was much higher for Blue Earth because they cared a lot more, whereas Waste Management, that was small potatoes. So I completely understand that. You know, one thing to think about would be, okay, if we don't wanna do unified hauling for waste, do we wanna do it for curbside recycling? You know, I think there's an environmental component also to our community. We wanna be conscious of that as well, that, you know, the recycling is a huge positive for most communities. It's not cheap always, but it could be a positive too, and so maybe people would still feel like they had some freedom to choose there without getting locked into it. But as I said, I mean, it's not something I'm necessarily concerned about, but I just thought I would bring that up because I'm interested in your feedback, so.
I don't have a problem pursuing especially when you're looking at, I mean, it makes sense from a road perspective and just looking at the neighborhood when the wear and tear on the roads is a big thing.
Sure, and you get different companies too that that work on a commission, so you'll have 3 houses side by side, but you got 3 different trucks coming for the
Mhm.
houses, all the same company.
And I think the public would get a better deal dollar-wise.
Yeah, generally, initially, I've seen where the offer is usually, at least initially, is very good.
Yeah.
Because obviously the company wants to get it. Now, you have to watch that very closely, because over time, you know, companies like to add that, it's just like an RFP for like audit services or whatever.
Yes.
They're gonna try and raise it. But
Right.
if you're willing to go into a 2-year contract and say after 2 years, hey, we're gonna go out to bids again, then they have to stay competitive, which is
Right.
great. But,
I think when you're initially organizing, you have to, I think the statute says you have to actually enter into a 3-year contract.
3-year
so
contract, sure.
like 3 to 7 would be that first contract,
Yeah.
you've got a long term.
I've never actually lived in a town other than Casson where there was a choice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. When they're
Atlanta,
utility,
Decatur,
whatever.
DeKalb County, this is who you get. You don't
Right.
like it, tough patooties, you can haul your own, if you can figure out where the dump is.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely something worth looking into, because I do agree that, you know, when I have 5 trucks going past my house to pick up garbage, there's a lot of wear and tear on the streets.
I mean, I noticed that I'm on the end of the street, so when they come to that end, they all back up into my driveway until I get home after a bad day, and it's just like black.
Yeah.
You know, all the rubber marks, I just like, oh, that's garbage day, I guess.
Garbage then.
So I guess what I can do is I can, definitely, you know, talk to some of their cities and see what their process is like, but, I mean, typically, we would have to do it through ordinance, we would set up a garbage recycling, utility, kinda like you did when you set up the stormwater utility, and, you know, we would probably utilize our own billing software to, you know, so we would bill, and then we would make a payment, and so that would be how it would be done from the practical aspect of it. As I said, I mean, it's not something we necessarily have to do, but I think it's interesting to think about, because it is somewhat unusual nowadays for a city this size to have multiple haulers. I mean, you saw the debate last year in, was it St. Paul, where they went to unified hauling, and that was a brouhaha, but.
Their hardest part was letting the public know after how it all works.
Well, that, and I mean, we wanna be very open to the public and letting them give us their feedback too. I think in St. Paul, maybe they didn't do quite as good of a job at that too, so. But, I'll follow up, this will just be something we can talk about the rest of this fall, maybe a little bit off and on.
Thank you.
Let's see, what else we got in there? I did let you know about, CMPS, there is a change in leadership there. I had a web meeting today with the, CEO search committee, and, we have a consultant they wanna bring in to do some, planning on the new job responsibilities for a new CEO. They're finding there's kind of a mismatch of talent sets right now between the, soft skills and the hard skills that are necessary for that, so, it shouldn't affect our operations any, but it is something that will be taking a little bit of time. Let's see, broadband, and then, the public safety facility upgrade debate discussion. We had a couple of really good presentations, I thought, our last council meeting. I was able to get some samples that were asked for from, I know, Mel, you had asked for some samples, I sent those out to the council members. So I'm interested in your feedback on, how you thought that went, and how you'd like to proceed, so I can let the people that presented know kind of what our process would look like.
So is there a cost to them doing these proposals, or are they just doing these
Well,
proposals?
so right now, what
throwing
we
out
would
there?
be looking at doing is, we'd be looking at possibly selecting one of these firms to basically give us a actual proposal. We'd say, we're interested in your services, you feel like, you know, we feel like you're the best match. They would come back to us and go through that with us in terms of what we want them to do and what we don't want them to do, and they would give us a price for that.
And then is it, I mean, I know you gotta plan for things in the future, but this is a project that's many years away. In my
Yeah,
mind.
certainly several years,
How much do we spend now?
certainly several years away. I don't anticipate it being a dramatic expense, certainly not this year or next year. You know, we're probably in a 24-month period of planning, trying to get everyone on board before we would be able to select a site and that sort of thing too. Because there are a lot of things we'd have to figure out, size, scope, location, funding, those are all things that would have to be considered. This is pretty much a preliminary step of how do we get to that discussion.
Yeah, I just don't wanna spend a bunch of money on something that's not gonna happen for a while.
Sure, and I don't think that you're necessarily locked into spending anything right now. basically what's gonna happen is we're gonna tell a firm, hey, we're interested, we felt like you were a stronger presenter, and we'd like to see what you could do and what the cost would be. They're gonna come back and they say, well, this would be the cost of our proposal, you know, and what we would wanna do in the next 6, 8, 10, you know, that sort of thing. That's my understanding at least.
Okay.
I mean, what I don't want is, I don't want us to just kinda let this issue sort of molder. You know, I mean, the council in February, you know, asked staff to take a look and say, what can we do to look at this project? And my knowledge of it would be the best way to move forward, would actually have a plan. You know, so, okay.
I mean, it's very reminiscent of the library, which took us, I don't even know how many years from, okay, start the process to breaking ground. I mean, it was years. And
Well,
years
site
and years.
considerations too.
And that's what I mean, it was,
Yeah.
I remember, cause I mean, I traveled all over southeastern Minnesota with the then library director and friends of the library people looking at various and sundry halls, library buildings and places to see what everybody else had. So, it's not a short process by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, anybody have a preference?
Just from when they were here talking and just from the background work they did, that I preferred ICS, just 'cause they were looking at every building, instead of just a fire hall, they were looking at everything we own and how we could make everything work.
I'm kinda torn, I mean, I liked the other company's presentation, and I liked that they have that expertise to go through and look at everything that we need to include. Which is why I asked if they would send us some examples of mixed-use
Sure.
buildings that they've done. It's very difficult to say without knowing kind of a ballpark figure of how much it
Mhm.
might cost.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
we do need more than just a fire department, we need
Right.
several other buildings that we could, or departments that we could incorporate into one facility. That would be my preferred way to do it.
Absolutely, I
If-
agree.
If we could get an idea of kind of how much are we looking at in terms of even just the planning process, how much is it going to cost?
Mhm.
Because we would want them both to give us a cost.
Yeah.
That's what
Because
I would
otherwise we
say.
just pick one and say,
Sure.
okay, you give us your cost, but there's no competition.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that, what you'd have to do is you'd have to be very specific in what are we costing out? You know, you talked about planning, I wanna make sure it's an apples to apples, like, what are the criteria,
Right.
you know, that you saw, and as I said, I mean, we don't have to select one tonight, this is just a matter of, I need your feedback. You know, I thought that one of the firms was a little bit stronger on process. I think ICS was stronger on the process and how they would maybe bring people in and do the discussion part of it. The other firm might have been a little bit stronger on their fire hall expertise itself. Now, not to say now, when I talked to them, the ICS said, well, we can hire 5 bugles to design the fire hall.
I saw that.
So it's like, well, maybe that'd be the way to do it, is if they, cause I mean.
Work together almost.
Well, right, and, you know, but yeah, so I mean, if that's the next step, is you want me to ask them for estimates on a cost for the services they're providing on the planning side of things, then we certainly can do that.
I would like to see that, because
Sure.
it's very difficult to make a decision between the two of them.
Yeah.
When you don't
Without-
know what it's gonna cost
right,
at all.
Right.
And if ICS could
Use 5 bugles.
with, you know, themselves and then also adding 5 bugles, that would have some cost.
I mean, the one thing I did like, I will say, to me, just from the experience I've had too with the risk management as well, just having known that some of those parts of the library project maybe didn't go as well as it would have liked, especially, as you mentioned, Mel, when it came to the actual execution of the building, construction. You know, for their firm to say, well, here's the cost, you know, we say, this is what we can afford, you know, 2 million or whatever, and for them to say, yep, this is the cost, and if it goes over, the city's not paying anymore.
Right.
I mean, if they can actually make that, you know, and put it in writing, to me,
Yeah.
like, that seems like kind of a no-brainer. You know, we don't get that, you know, guarantee basically on anything, you know, whether it's a street project or a sewer plant. So what I'll do is I'll contact both of them and say, what would be an estimated cost for your planning process? you know, whether it's 6 months, 8 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, you know, what would you expect us to be spending on that? And that will then give us an idea of, you know, what are we looking for? Are there any specific things that you'd like to see out of that? Like, what are the top 5, like, I wanna know how much it's cost to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things?
All I wanna say is, it needs to be fire, police, ambulance, and city hall.
Okay.
And the reason I say that, when we did the city shop, there was tons and tons of flack. If we go about it just to get a fire hall, the city is gonna come unglued. But if you do all 4 of them in a combined building where they can share meeting rooms and all the other amenities, it's gonna go a lot easier,
I agree.
even if it's years down the road.
I agree, and then the only cherry on top of that cake would be if you could figure out a way to put some type of a community center, or so that it can be used for community functions.
Oh,
Because
sure,
that's the other
absolutely.
thing that everybody
That's
says
true.
we
Yep.
need.
That's true.
Is something that can double as a community center or a senior center, because we don't technically have either right now. With the library using its community room as its book quarantine,
Right.
there is nothing.
It
outside
certainly
of that.
limits us, it does, for a city of this size, we're very limited with our public accessible space, no, you're absolutely correct on that. Anything else?
No,
Mayor?
that's good.
Anything?
No, that's good.
Okay, well, that's what I'll do then, I'll talk to them about getting some cost estimates on their planning proposal, okay?
Thank you.
Got it, thank you.
Perfect.
Anything else in your?
Other than that, you've got my report, let's see. And then, of course, we've got our CARES Act resolution going down the agenda here. At the last council meeting, the council had requested that, we allocate funds. Some of those funds were allocated to different areas. Right now, we're allocating, looking at allocating $200,000 to council and staff costs. A lot of that is for, money that was spent related to the CARES, to the COVID, so payroll. We can do some, for example, at the Aquatic Center, we had extra staff that were on for cleaning, extra staff that were on for putting up signs, that sort of thing. So we have about $200,000 there. Facility modifications, that's a project the council has discussed previously, trying to utilize our existing space here at City Hall in a more appropriate way for social distancing and better access from the rear part of the building. Right now, we've got a kind of an unused space there. Telework support, we're looking at acquiring the VPN laptops to allow for some more working from home. That's something that I wanted to bring up to council too, should be aware that we have an opportunity, we could utilize some of those COVID dollars for better and newer personal items for the council members, if that's something that would be helpful to you, if we did have to do meetings remotely. You know, certainly we provided those in the past, we could utilize some of the funds for that. Public health, that was the request the council made at the last council meeting, was that we allocate $25,000 for public health. And cleaning supplies, most of that money's already been expended, so we use that as a baseline. We may see a few extra dollars spent there. At the last council meeting, the police department also submitted a request for about $93,000. Now that number can change, you know, we don't necessarily have to, if we allocate it now and we end up saying, well, maybe we don't actually need the copy machine or we don't actually need that, I mean, we can change that allocation, that isn't a problem. The EDA, we discussed making a pledge basically to work with the county EDA as well. If you had the opportunity today, I did send out those guidelines last week, and that program actually went live today, so it went live a little early. It was usually not gonna go live till Monday, but that is available for businesses. And then we have some other sundry expenses there too, so totaling, $476,000 is where we're at right now.
Out of the 490?
Out of 490, so there's a small margin there too for additional expenditure. I mean, something to think about is that, you know, it seems weird to be spending money, we're not really spending it. It's money that we got that's sitting in a fund. If we don't use it, we just have to give it back to the state of Minnesota. So, usually I'd be very careful with spending on things, and I mean, it's like, oh, it feels weird. But I mean, really, the money is a use or lose, and so it's conceptually for the council. And all these things we would be declaring as related to COVID, so.
Okay, any questions for Tim on that?
Nope.
I would say, you know, really, at least
to a point to maybe increase your telework technical, number a little bit.
Okay.
Particularly if we're talking, the planning options that we discussed previously. Included in that may be some sort of a document camera that can be used when you've got a plat or something that you need to communicate electronically, that you just put the plat underneath the camera and be able to do that.
Sort of show it to everybody.
Yep.
Linda, we can make a note on that. Thank you. As I said, these are just preliminary allocations. They can change some. You know, if we get a better estimate on our facility modifications, obviously, we're not gonna spend the money that, you know, we're not gonna spend if we don't have to. So,
Yep.
the same thing's true with staff and council costs. I mean, if it doesn't come in at that number, then that's not what we'll do, so.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Council action sheet.
So this is one more item, this is a small item, just as informational as that I'm gonna be asking staff to start utilizing these sheets when they're filing their requests. Sometimes we get things that come in different formats. I just think it's nice to make it standardized so that everything, so we know where it's coming from, who should be talking about it. And so we'll just start utilizing those going forward, so.
Thank you. Engineers report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. One item on the agenda just to add a quick one before we jump into it. It's related to I&I reduction, smoke testing. You may have seen we sent out some notices, and then on Tuesday you may have seen some smoke around the north end of town. We did smoke the sanitary sewer. What we do there is we put a smoke bomb in there, push the smoke through the sanitary sewer to see where it comes out. On a typical house, it'd come out your vent pipe on your sanitary sewer stack. If it comes out anywhere else, like a floor drain or any other area inlets around the house, it could be a problem with I&I. So we did that around the school along 16th and 5th Avenue there. We found a couple things, some cleanouts that were in the ground that were broke off or mowed over, and was letting rain groundwater into our sanitary sewer along with one manhole casting that was leaking. So that's something we completed with Public Works and the school staff. We actually found some internal piping in the school too that was leaking too, so letting in some sewer gas. So JJ and the school, I think, appreciated our efforts in fighting some of the deficiencies in their piping. So we'll be working to get those obviously fixed to help seal up our sewer through our I&I reduction. So just wanted to toss that out there because it was a notice that you probably like to receive. So moving into our item also related to I&I reduction, sump pump and sewer lateral program. The discussion tonight is whether or not we start that program back up. If you remember this spring, we had kind of kicked off everything. We had a website, we had a public meeting all scheduled. We were ready to really get some things going. We opened up the website. We had about 90 properties. We're already signed up to be inspected. COVID hit, so we obviously put a stop to that and said, well, let's see what happens here, take a little bit of a break, and then reevaluate as COVID goes on. So that's what we pretty much got to that point, and tonight we're asking, do we move this thing forward or not? We've done some work in some other towns, specifically Boone, Iowa, we're starting up their program. Austin, Minnesota is continually delaying their program, is taking the wait-and-see approach. But what we've kind of worked out with staff, and I've met with some of our staff here to talk about this, was we would be ultimately following CDC guidelines related to COVID-19. Our staff would wear masks during the inspection, take temperatures of the inspectors each day, eliminate the signature at the end of the inspection process. A lot of times in our tablets we'll have the property owner sign it, we'll just eliminate that. Notify residents that we prefer that no more than one person accompany our inspector during the inspection process. We'd maintain 6 feet from our inspector and the property owner. Request the resident also wear a mask. Indicate the resident by scheduling an inspection they're ultimately symptom-free for COVID, just to again follow those CDC guidelines. So again, that's what we've kind of adopted, and we've worked with some other towns to start the programs up. The discussion tonight is, do we want to get this program started? Do we want to continue to wait and see any other direction that you may give us? We're happy to move it forward. We also talked about if there's a property owner that really feels very strongly they're isolating, they don't want anybody in the house, we'd leave that up to the administration staff to view that request and ultimately work with that property owner. Obviously, we're not here to ruffle up anybody to that probably level if that's truly where they're at, but we also have I&I and a sewer problem, and knock on wood, it's been a pretty dry year, but we know that doesn't always happen every year, so
this is a multi-year project, so the solutions in sealing up the sanitary sewers over multiple years here, so the sooner that we can get on this program, get these properties inspected, get them fixed, the sooner we can seal up our sewer, prevent those backups, not have to spend millions of dollars in upgrading our treatment plant. So that's the big picture on why we're doing it, and why we're ultimately happy for the council tonight to see if we wanna move this thing forward, so.
Perfect. I'd like to see it move forward. Get back to work.
But I would also like to give people the option to say
Yes,
no,
definitely.
not coming in tonight. Because there will be residents that don't, and it's not so much that they have a non-compliant whatever in the basement, but that they just don't want strangers in their house right now.
Yep.
So we wanna be sensitive to that, again, it's a fine line to say, no, I don't want somebody in my house, to make them aware that there's going to be a deadline at some point.
Right.
That is coming, so I wanna be respectful of both sides of the discussion.
Yeah, we have to have some, I mean, if you're isolating or you're symptomatic or that, but if it's just, I don't have much, I'm a little afraid right now. I mean, I get that, but it's, at the same point, we have to get it done at some point. Otherwise, if that was our deal, it would be forever, because we're gonna be dealing with this for a long time. So I can say, I'm fearful of you coming to my house, and it would never get done. We gotta draw a line somewhere to where, if you're symptomatic, great, if you're isolating, great, but hey, we'll give you 30 days, and we're gonna call you back. And we gotta put something behind it that says, hey, it needs to be done. Once we contact you, your inspection has to be done within 3 months. I mean, as far as direction to administration, if somebody says, I don't want you in my house today, because I'm, whatever it might be, but within 60, 90 days, whatever, the inspection has to be done. It's not a perpetual, I don't want you in my house. That's my opinion.
Well, I mean, certainly up to the council, whatever timeline did you set for staff, that's the timeline we'll utilize. I will ask you to set a timeline, so that it's something that you've made your decision on.
Yeah,
because
no,
I know
that's what I'm
that
asking council,
There will
but-
certainly be folks who will possibly utilize this as an opportunity not to allow inspectors in.
Sure.
And so, in the long run, if you say 90 days after contacting, I think we all wish we could just say, hey, you know what, we're done with this, and we've got a vaccine and everything's done. But I don't want, I want to make sure the council is 100% unified on what they feel is appropriate timelines, so that it doesn't come back that staff are kind of stuck between council and, not having a unified approach. If the council says 90 days, then I'm all for it.
Make it the first of the year. That's 4 months.
Well, but
Well, I
you
mean,
may not
that's-
contact until November.
Yeah, I know, I get that, but
The other thing, just to maybe muddy the waters even more, is we're gonna do different sectors of towns.
Right.
So we may be only doing, let's just say, 1/4 of the sump pumps, which is half the town, so 1/4 of a half of the town this November, see how it goes. Through the first year, we may suspend the program over the winter, it's just tough to do sump pumps
Right.
with snow and whatnot. We'll start out again in the spring, so it's gonna have to be sector-based, so it's not necessarily a hard deadline for the entire town. It could be for each sector a timeline, and that's kind of a rolling schedule based on the sector of town.
Let me back into this. When do you want it done? When do you, if COVID weren't an issue right now, when would you see this being done?
Well, I think we'd be full steam ahead, and we'd be trying to get as many as scheduled, and our staff would be completing as many as we can. I think we ultimately had probably a 2-year project, to do this, because it's not only sump pumps, it's the lateral inspections. We were just thinking the sump pumps, it's a little easier, one of our observers as opposed to 2. So I would say over the next year probably would be ideal to get this done. And we gotta kind of reevaluate too, because we have a scheduling thing too, is if we're not scheduling things, we keep sending out more and more mailers, opening up the number of possibilities, the number of people that can sign up, so we wanna fill up a day too to be efficient, so that becomes a problem. That's gonna be the other part of this, is if we get some mini pushback and say, the public says we're not gonna participate, and we got a scheduling project, maybe we're back talking about it, so. Maybe we play it by ear, and we don't, we just see what happens and go with our typical scheduling, and then see how many happen, and then we can handle it administratively, and.
I mean, I think that's maybe the best solution that we had talked about when I met with staff too, is, let's get the low-hanging fruit. If people say, yep, if we can get 40% of people that are like, no problem, because we already had people that want to get it done with it. I mean, my house is a good example. The sooner they do my house, the better, because I got a year warranty when I bought it, so I want to know if it's screwed up right now, because they're going to have to come back and fix it then. So, I mean, you're going to have people that are going to sign up and say, no, it's fine. And then we have to have the best record keeping. We've run into that before on some of these projects where, like, did this person actually get it fixed or not?
Yep.
And 3 years later, we're still trying to track down whatever, 8 to 10 people from Third, Fourth, and Fifth that
Right.
never got theirs fixed, and so we don't want that situation either, so.
I mean, my only concern with putting a hard deadline in the middle of winter is
Mhm.
then you're in the middle of flu season, and I'm thinking about
Sure.
the older residents that are gonna be the ones that.
And that might even be a
that are
bigger
most
concern than the COVID for some people, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's
But
more,
you
more
can't do
common.
them in the winter time.
Yeah, we typically don't, we would suspend the program
Yeah,
like
but-
we do in the winter.
So, but my point on that is, could you put the deadline on, for people to sign up, or however you want to deadline this, but getting it done once the weather is warmer and it's feasible for you guys to do the sump pump inspections outside of flu season?
To be in a
I mean,
nice
if people
spring.
wanna do it now, like Tim, anybody in the new part of town where they're like, hey, I got a warranty, let's get it done?
So are you gonna take like a certain quarter of the town, say, hey, we're looking for you to sign up this quarter, and then after you're through with that, move to the next quarter, or you're just taking anybody from anywhere,
We typically would do like a rolling to, we would start with a sector.
right?
Actually, we might have like 6 sectors of sump pumps, whatever, right? Start with sector 1, see how many people sign up. As we get them scheduled, we start having holes in our schedule, open up to sector 2 so we can continue scheduling them. So we can't open up the whole town because everybody wants to schedule and
Right.
they're frustrated there's not enough
Right.
openings. So we gotta play that by ear. That's where it goes to how many we can get done, how many people schedule. So it's gonna get a little convoluted on having a hard deadline. That's why I'd like to keep it in the sectors and say, you got your notice, you got your second notice, where you got a door hanger, you have a date here,
Right.
whenever we release that sector to get scheduled in here.
So the
And maybe that
people-
is the 90 days, and then if we have a shutdown over winter, then obviously that timeline's not going over the winter time, and we can circle back on what their date is.
Okay.
And you could just, you wouldn't even have to have 90 days, we want this project done by July 1st of 2022.
Yeah, we're gonna have some properties at the end too, that maybe are in sector 1, we've been after, and then it becomes very inefficient to have a couple of days that we get scheduled, so we're gonna continue to call them and hound them to get them
Right.
scheduled. Just a little logistic thing too, one of the things that we've talked about is, I don't know if you've ever done like FaceTime with your video, is maybe that property owner calls our inspector that's outside, they walk down in the house, go to the sump pump. Again, sump pumps is a pretty good spot inspection, there's not a lot of, you're not running a camera through the lateral, can visually see, through the FaceTime, through that inspection process, kind of walking through the house. Something we've talked about, we haven't quite completed it, but something we've been thinking about, alternative measures to basically do the inspection. The other thing is the property owner still has the right to have a licensed plumber come and do the inspection, which still have a COVID issue there potentially, but if there was a plumber that maybe that property owner was more comfortable with, it could be done, so. All things that were kind of new to us, and we're trying to work through to make it least abrasive to the property owner, so.
Let's do it.
Okay?
30 or 90 days, let's do it.
Do you need a motion on that, Brandon?
No, take it as council direction, we'll get it going.
Thank you.
And that was about it?
Yep,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Personnel, promotion of Christy DeLima to senior liquor clerk, grade 3, step 3, 1760, effective 8/11 of 20. If you don't know Christy, she's the hardest working person that you'll ever see in your life. The times I go in the liquor store, she's always doing something. She's never standing there, she's always doing something, so very well deserved promotion. I'm glad she took the full-time work, so I'll make the motion to approve that promotion.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I've got the police chief here, tonight too, I just wondered if he had any feedback for part-time officers. I think there were some applicants out, do you have any updates for personnel on that?
We did a written assessment, and we're down to 10 applicants that we're gonna interview in 2 weeks.
And how many total are you wanting to get out of there?
We'd like to create a list of about 5 that we would like to hire eventually in the future. Start out with 2, because we only have 2 field training officers, so start out with 2 for training right now.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks. Lonnie has a quick question.
Oh, sure, perfect.
For the engineer.
I have to ask you a question, because there was some flutter here earlier. 57, MinDOT, possibly not going next year?
So, we run into some difficulties, some of the roundabouts, some of the access right away and whatnot. We're working it through with them. We were planned for a December letting, we're now looking at a March of next year letting, so we got a little bit of slippage in our schedule. But we're still on for March letting is still planned.
right now.
For 21 construction.
Correct. That's still a possibility, we may be looking at even a later letting or even pushing off 2022, but, we're
If-
still pushing.
Understanding things are uncertain, right, and it's not like
Yep.
their fault things happen. If they don't do the construction of 21, can they spend some money on at least fixing it a little bit better for the, because, I mean, people's cars are falling
Oh,
apart right now.
Jesus.
Or we need to lower the speed limit to 5.
None of them
That's
know
a lot
about
here.
it.
There's speed bumps everywhere.
It's good for business, Tim.
So we can talk about, I'll know more here in the next, month or so. We're at a really big point in our design and working with MinDOT on getting those things hammered out and working on the schedule, so.
Okay.
I mean, it's bad when you have to pay more attention to squirting around than looking for pedestrians.
Pedestrians, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely a safety hazard.
Thank you.
Any
Thanks,
updates
Brandon.
on 16?
Was that?
Any updates on 16? The overlay or? the-
No,
Okay.
we're still working, I gotta work out some funding things with Nancy on what that means for the grant that we got from MinDOT. If we leave the project open, we may not be able to get that grant secured and put to bed, so I may wanna close the job, but I wanna kinda leave it open that we may wanna come back and reevaluate it in the spring, so I'm not sure where that's gonna go. I have some funding things I gotta work on with Nancy, so.
But they'll fix whatever's peeling up.
Yep, they said that there's some deficiencies there, so,
Okay.
it just gets a little muddy on what we do, so I think I got an idea, I just wanna work out the funding stuff, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Is that it?
Yep, I'm good.
Attorney, thanks for coming.
She's got, good news though, right? We're done with Thompson, we got the check?
Yes, Mr. Thompson came in and paid the judgment for the city's costs. He hasn't paid the assessment, that's, being paid along with his property taxes, he's stretching that out over. But he did come in and pay, the judgment, in full as well, that the city, got against him for the,
Legal cost.
yeah, both at the district court and at the appellate court. And the total of that was $6,182 or something like that, so.
Thank you for your work on that.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Any questions on correspondence? Entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make that motion.
Thanks, Tim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mel. All in favor, say aye.
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 She beat you by 1 second, Dwayne.
Okay, good.
I had to think, which ear did I hear it first? Thanks for coming, Tim.
Maybe that technology, we have a